All right, welcome back to New Little Life. If you don't know me yet, which you probably do, my name's Allison Tolman. I'm the creator and founder of the Pumping for Working Moms program, where we help career-driven women who are committed to breastfeeding transition back to work with a realistic, sustainable plan and the calm confidence to maintain their milk supply with a breast pump and find that work-life pump balance. So today we have the opportunity to speak with a real live working mom who just met her breastfeeding goal. And I am so incredibly proud of Lhea, who you get to meet today. And her experience has not been easy, right? There's been bumps along the way. And even at the end here, she's still coming up with some unexpected challenges, which she's going to share with you. But as we're talking to our guest today, if you find yourself wanting some long term focused help through this transition, there's a link down below to apply to work with me and my team. If you're listening to this on the podcast, that link is newlittlelife.com/apply. But I'm going to go ahead and bring Lhea on because I cannot wait to talk to her. She's so fun. And we're just going to start at the beginning. Welcome, Lhea.
Thank you. Thanks for the welcome and thanks for having me.
Okay, so you just got to start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do for work, and then let's start at the beginning of your story. What was feeding this little one like for you in the beginning?
Absolutely. So, Lhea, I have been pumping at this point for a little over a year. In terms of about me, I'm a super busy HR professional. So, prior to this, I would have called myself an absolute workaholic. So even with having a baby and what that was going to look like was going to already be a transition. But I have an absolutely amazing and beautiful little boy who turned 1 a couple weeks ago. From my story, let me just tell you, it has been everything that I did not expect. So I came into this thinking, hey, I am going to breastfeed. It was a big goal of mine. I, spent literally, it feels like, most of my adult life knowing that that was something I wanted to do. There are all kinds of stigmas around, as a community, as a Black community, we don't breastfeed our babies and all these things. So I had it in the back of my mind, I was going to be, breastfeeding my baby. It was very important to me. So when I had my son and we had everything from latch issues to milk supply issues, everything, it was, the start was hard and I did not expect it. Even to this day, we don't latch. I'm exclusively pumping, which has looked as high as 8 to 9 sessions a day, or, even now, 6 times a day routine, all of those things, which was unexpected. So my son Braden had a lip tie, a tongue tie, ended up having a C-section, which I think affected my milk supply up front. And so everything that I had planned on and thought would happen was different. But at the end of the day, I still felt like, okay, I could have a beautiful journey doing it my way. But I want to talk a little bit about what that looked like along the way, because it was a little unsettling even at first and hard emotionally for me. I remember up front, when I had my son, which was supposed to be this big natural childbirth, it was supposed to be in a birthing center and all these things. It was not. Ended up being in a hospital with a C-section, which was my absolute last desire. But amazingly, I had a midwife that was like, Lhea, I told you I would tell you when we're there, we're there. So had him. The golden hour was totally disrupted. They gave him to me. I held on to him, but then it was like not all of the, keeping him on my chest for an hour and all those things, which, affected me too. But, I did have him straight out the gate, but then they took him and, got him cleaned off and amazing nursing staff. They did everything that they needed to do. And it, in terms of advocacy for myself and the fact that I had a doula that probably should have advocated on my behalf too. I didn't necessarily have the start even there that I wanted, but, regardless, we put him on, and he latched. And even though it was a little painful for me, he did latch up front. But then he would spend about an hour latched, get off, and then be screaming like he was starving. And at first it was kind of like, hey, I'm learning something, maybe tweaks may need to be happened. They had lactation consultants on site, so they were helping. But by the second day, it was very clear, like, he is not getting enough food. And I kept telling him, like, this doesn't seem right. And they're like, oh, he doesn't need a lot. And I'm like, yeah, but for him to have been on for an hour and then to come off and to be screaming like this, something is wrong. My baby is hungry. I just know it, right? So then we gave him donor milk, which he drank, very quickly. My son has always been a big boy. And so, I wasn't surprised, but I was like, kind of going through the emotions of that. Like, something is not going well in the beginning of my journey. This is not what I wanted. Right. So, but nonetheless, but my baby has to eat, right? Which was kind of my starting mantra. So we did do that, and continued to try to get him to latch, continued to try to feed, even during my hospital stay and after. And it was part of I think by like day 2 or day 3, like late in the day, they said, okay, well, we're going to have you pump as well. And so they bring out this pump, which I had no idea how to use. And they give it to me, and I connect, and nothing comes out. Nothing. Not one drop. Nothing came out. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm crying, I'm upset, all of the things. And they said, okay, that was just the first session. They bring it back out, because I'm starting the rhythm of every 2.5 hours. Or when he should be eating, and nothing. And they're like, okay, finally I have a lactation consultant that comes out, and she says very candidly, I hate when they bring new moms pumps, because they don't tell you the expectation is that it may not come out, at first, and the early milk and all these things. So I was like, okay, that makes me feel slightly better, but even still not great, because I wanted to be feeding my baby, and now this pump is showing me literally that I have no milk coming out, right? So that was extremely difficult, but we continued and did what we had to do. I'm thankful that I had a great partner in it, because he had to pick me up quite a few times up front, because I was just destroyed, right? So went through that, left the hospital, continued to try to pump at a rhythm. And at that point, I had already taken a breastfeeding class with an IBLC, and had a great teacher, called her back and said, hey, can you come and help me? I don't think I'm getting all of this right? So she came over to my house, helped me with his placement, helped give suggestions, nipple shield, helped me with my pump machine, just everything, which, to this day, I'm incredibly grateful for her early on. But even still, with all the settings and changing my flange size and all of that, I had very little milk coming out. Like, literally, I remember celebrating, like, when it got to PP. I have the Spectra pump, and it has PP as like the lowest. And I was like, I just made it. Like, it was very, very little, which I think.
Wow. Yeah.
I know. And I was like, going through that process. And at the time, I had helpful, family members that would say things like, there's no milk coming out. Like, are you still doing this? There's nothing there. And I'm like, I know there's no milk coming out. I can see that. But, just like at the same time, you're like, I just had a baby. I'm getting enough sleep. And I also have no milk at this point. It was just like the perfect storm. But I kept trying. Right. And, it took some time. Like, I remember the conversations of, I'm still not getting a lot of milk. Is this okay? I took to Google, which is, I'll share this, like, how I got to your program, because Google and all its conflicting advice can make you crazy. So I try to do everything: drink enough, eat enough, sleep enough, try to keep pumping more frequently, change my sizes. Like, I try to diagnose and treat everything. But it was a long, kind of upfront journey. And even to this day, like, my best session is, in the morning, I'm getting like 2 ounces per side. It's not like I have become this, overproducer overnight, but I have found that I can make it work, that my son still gets breast milk. I do supplement. And I show myself grace, and that has helped me to stay engaged with the journey, and to continue on, because it hasn't always been how I kind of saw it, but
Mhm.
he has still been able to always have breast milk incorporated. I even have a small freezer supply, and have built in ways to have, like, okay, so in the middle of the night we did formula because that was fast,
Yeah.
and easy, and then during the day I made sure he had breast milk throughout the day, and things like that, to make it kind of integrated and for him to still be getting what he needed out of what I was providing him.
Yeah. What was it like making the decision to move to exclusively pumping? Did you make that pretty quickly, or how long did you keep trying to latch your little one?
Yeah, I made it around the 4 week point. We had continued trying, and I was like, oh, this. I was trying to like breastfeed him and then bottle feed him and then finish that and pump. So I was up like very long amounts of time, even as he and my husband were sleeping, and trying to do the feed and then also do the pumping. And so I think by about 4 weeks I was considering, and then by 2 months it was done. Like, I just decided to exclusively pump. We did later on get the tongue and the lip tie procedure, and I tried again, but it was very clear, like, this ship had passed, because he was about 7 months at that point and he was very used to his routine. So I continued to exclusively pump after that, but early on decided that the exclusive pumping was going to be the route.
Yeah. And I think if I remember right, when you joined us, you were about 6 months in.
Yeah.
What was kind of the tipping point for you where you were like, okay, we got to do something different here?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember, so I was watching one of your videos, and I was just to a point where, like, you mentioned kind of similar to how you did now around needing support. And I began to cry. Like, I knew I needed support. Let me preface to say I have a very supportive husband, which helps.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But I needed people who went through it and didn't throw in the towel, right? Which is fine, because that happens, and there's absolutely no judgment from me on that. But in my case, I was to the point where I was like, I can give this up or I can keep going. I can just say, hey, you tried, or I can keep going. But if I'm going to keep going, I need people around me who have gone through it, who understand it. I have so many people who would be like, oh, you're still doing it? Like, man, I gave that up and they would have whatever their cut points were, which is fine. Or, oh, my milk supply dried up right? Which is, again, fine. But I needed somebody who would give me the counter opposite story of, hey, I continued through all of those hard times. And by about 6 months, I had been doing a countdown to get to the year. And I was tired, and I was, very much, I was trying to research everything. I'd had, kind of some personal health issues around my thyroid that made my supply drop. So then I'm trying to research that, trying to research, just all of those things that I'm looking across multiple sites, and I'm extremely busy. So I'm like, how am I going to even find this out? Right. And so I knew I needed fact-based research, and I needed women around me who have gone through a similar journey. And so that is why I eventually was like, I won't make it to a year if I don't do something different. I won't make it, as much as I'm about resiliency and pushing myself and rallying and all those things. I knew I needed people around me who just got it. And so I joined the program, and I got that immediately. Right. So my first time jumping on the kind of weekly chat session, I was nervous. I was like, I don't, do I just share, what am I going to do? And, all of those things. But I jumped on, and it was like immediately comfortable. And you became somebody who was on a screen to like somebody I knew I could just talk to. And so it just became a fantastic outlet. And so then I breezed through 6 months, because even though there was a lot of challenges in the second half, it was still much better to know, when I have a question, I can go look at videos, or I can ask the question. I don't have to go through, sometimes 15 to 20 websites and see
Yeah.
conflicting information, which was extremely frustrating in terms of the journey. So that was my tipping point. It was like right around the 6 month mark, I knew I needed a do different, and my do different was investing in myself.
I love that. And so you're still supplementing a little bit with formula at this point, right?
I am. I
About how
am.
much are you doing? I'm just curious. Actually, I don't actually know exactly how
Yeah.
much.
So I'm supposed to be getting more towards like 16 ounces. So we're still figuring out. He still likes to drink about 25 to 28 ounces. But he's getting between 12 to 14 ounces of breast milk a day. And then I
Mhm.
have a split of the rest between breast milk and cow's milk. So he's got all types of different milks that he is drinking. But my goal is to get him off of the formula completely, and on to getting very comfortable with the cow's milk so that I can transition or begin to transition at that point.
I love that. And I think it's a really important point to know that we don't have to do things 100%. Like, I think moms a lot of times get into this mindset if it's got to be all or nothing, or like, I'm going to get some help. And if I can't get to 100%, it's not worth it. But I love how you speak about your experience and to be making like a half or 2/3 of the breast milk that he needs and to be really, really proud of that, as you should. I think is a mindset that I wish more moms had, that it doesn't have to be 100%, how you feed your baby is up to you. And some breast milk is better than no breast milk. And I love how dedicated you have been to this process. I would also love for you to speak on this weaning process because I know it's been a little unexpected and challenging for you. So your little one just had a birthday about 3 weeks ago, right? He's a one,
Yes.
and you'd been pushing to that year mark, and then you were like, I'm done with this. Tell us kind of where you're at now.
Yes, Allison, I'm blown away. I would never have guessed this, first off. I have been doing this countdown literally every month. I'm like, okay, he's 8 months, 4 months to go.
Yep.
Okay, he's 9 months. I've had this countdown. I even got on our call and showed this beautiful schedule of how I was going
I
to
loved
wean
it.
and
It was
drop
so
things off.
impressive.
And in truly a fashion, it was an Excel spreadsheet of all the things. And I was so ready. What I did not anticipate was my mind. And it was, there's a lot to it in terms of, obviously there's a hormonal element, there's emotional element. But what I didn't anticipate was when I was ready to wean and I started the process, I dropped one of my pump sessions, I was ready to go. And I only went from 7 to 6, by the way. But when I saw, because we're, getting him to use his cups. He's amazing with straw cups and uses them. He can drink open face cups, all the things. But when I gave him the cow's milk and I saw him just throw it on the floor or just knock it over, it did something to me mentally. I was like, I am not ready to not be able to give him breast milk if he is not ready to be able to take cow's milk. And so you read, a year they can have cow's milk. And there's a big transition of how you mix it in, all those things. But I was not, clearly ready for him to not be in that transition. He's done seamlessly. He can drink breast milk. He can drink formula, all those things. So in my mind was like, okay, we'll just now introduce cow's milk and he'll do well and all those things. The fact that we haven't fully transitioned that, I think mentally I'm just not ready to then wean because I want to still give him, the breast milk for as long as he needs it. And also I don't produce, I'm not an overproducer, so I'm not producing just tons to have this huge freezer supply. So I haven't finished the process, which really surprised me because no one would have been, everybody's surprised and no one would have been more a rally for like, I'm at a year, I'm done than me. Like I've shocked myself.
Mhm.
I've shocked those around me who are still supportive, but at the same time, they were like, no, Lhea, you have been ecstatic about getting to a year. What happened? It sounds like you got on the fence. And I'm like, I did a little bit because he's not ready. So I don't think I'm ready, and so there's a little bit of a mental piece that I was not expecting at all. I was not. I just knew I was done. And I was rejoicing. And now
Mhm.
I'm still pumping.
She's still going, folks. Yeah. Oh, check back in several months and see how much Lhea is still pumping. No, but it's funny. This is why I love a coaching program with long-term support. And it's not a subscription. You don't have to pay monthly. Like it's one time and we're with you forever because stuff like this happens. Not only have you had some different stuff pop up over the last 6 months, that we've been working together. But now even at the end, it's like, oh my gosh, I was not expecting this and I still need help. I don't know what and that's why I love working with clients like you for an extended period, because this stuff happens. And oh, it's just so funny to hear your little one. I love the point you brought up too. And honestly, no matter when in your journey you decide to wean, one of my best recommendations is that you try the alternate form of milk before you start weaning from the breast milk. If whether you're at 2 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, whatever, make sure they can tolerate the alternate option before you end that. So honestly, I think you're in a good place. Get your life figured out and things, but it is so funny because I know you've been counting down literally the minutes until 1 year. And so to have you here, you've cut it down one pump, but oh man. Is it hard for you to see the number come down too? Like the less milk output that you're getting when you cut pumps? Is that a little like mentally jarring for you as well?
I thought it would be because I was anticipating seeing that, completely drop as I continued. But because I haven't continued, because I actually started, like that week right before his, he turned 1 on a Sunday. So that week I was prepared, right? I dropped that session.
Mhm.
I actually only see a little bit of a decline because my body then rebounded a little bit and just spread it out. And so I do have a slight amount different, but I've been able to make a pretty decent amount for myself, right? And still do it on 6. So at least from that perspective, I'm only pumping 6 times a day, which is better than 7. 7 was better than 8. So I get a little bit of a relief there. But I do think when I get to the point that I am truly continuing to drop sessions, that was already something on my radar that I would feel a little bit like, okay, I'm going back to the beginning where I see less and less. And what does that look like? Because it was very jarring at the beginning of my journey to see such small amounts. So probably more to come.
We're not done yet.
No, we're not done yet. But definitely for now, I've still been making an okay amount.
Which is great. I'm going to keep you in my circle as long as I can, because if all my clients were as fun as you, we'd be like, actually, most of them are. I love it, love it, love it.
They are.
As we I know you have another meeting you got to jump to here pretty quickly, but as we wrap up, is there any advice you would give, maybe even to your old self a year ago, or to new moms, especially that are going to be going back to work and pumping is going to be part of their experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first off, give yourself permission. I, at the beginning, felt like my journey had to look a certain way. Quite naturally with my personality, I'm like, hey, it's gotta go. Like this is how it's gonna go, and all of those things. This journey has taught me that it doesn't always go how it has to go or how you think it's gonna go. So you have to continuously give yourself permission to be okay with how it goes. Because it will throw you a curveball, as these things tend to, and that's okay. I think you reiterated, already, like if you can give anything, that is enough to keep going, and celebrate those small wins. I remember sending my husband a picture when I finally got to, that PP on the spectra, and that was a big deal because before that I was making drip drops, and then I got to that, and then I would send him, hey, I made it to an ounce. Like I celebrated every step of the way, because I needed that mentally, and that was really helpful. And then get that support around you. I can't emphasize enough how much I wouldn't have made it to this point, to be beyond my goal, if I didn't get a group of women that just got it right. They're going through their own challenges, and that's okay, because we're all doing that. And my favorite, parts of the weekly session is when we're throwing advice like, hey, have you tried? Have you thought about? I can do, because that is the camaraderie I was looking for, is to share experiences. And you need that because it can be a hard journey. And if you're like me, I was working like 60, 70-hour work weeks, like coming back into a busy job and having to pump and prioritize, hey guys, I'm going to pump, right? This is my thing. And make sure everybody knows that around me. it helps to have people who can even help you frame a pushback conversation you have to have, or how do I bring up, right? And so it's been a huge experience for me. And resiliency, keep going. Don't give up no matter what you see in that bottle. That if I could share anything, that's what I would share. And just also to think about who you let into what you're going through. Like people like to make comments about my journey. The most sometimes upsetting up at first, until I gave myself permission, was, hey, your breasts, this is what they were made for, and they're not doing their job. And yes, somebody would keep saying that to me, and it made me feel upset. Like I was visibly upset. And now I'm like, they don't even know. I am blessed to be able to give my son exactly what I'm giving him. I celebrate me, right? And so I think that's the advice that I would give to others who find themselves in a similar position.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your workday to share your story and your thoughts and everything there. I'm going to let you go because I know you got to run to a meeting,
Yes,
but
I'm
thank you,
sorry.
Lhea.
And if you want to
No,
regroup, we can, Allison. Okay.
yeah,
All right.
no worries. No worries.
Thank
Totally
you.
fine. All right.
Bye.
See you, Lhea. That was a wonderful conversation. I probably could have talked with Lhea for another 30 minutes here about her experience, but she said some really, really wonderful things. And I think a lot of moms can resonate with her situation and her story. Switching to exclusively pumping is a hard transition, especially if breastfeeding was your goal and it's not going well. But we have a lot of moms doing kind of the whole spectrum of combination feeding inside of our program. We've got those who are latching quite a bit. We have those who are exclusively pumping like Lhea. And then we have, those who are doing both. When they're with their baby, they're latching. When they're away from their baby, they're pumping. And no matter how you slice it, it's hard. And I loved what Lhea talked about and how finding a community of other people that are doing the exact same thing that you're doing was huge for her. And it's fun because our program is really designed to accommodate busy working moms in whatever way works best for them. So I know for Lhea, like she said, one of her favorite things was our weekly group coaching call, where you get to come on a call with our team of experts, including me and the other working moms, and we all just get to have a conversation. You can ask your questions. We can chat together. It is so much fun. And almost every time when I bring the next person on to chat, they said, "Ooh, actually, what she was talking about reminded me of something," or "she had a really good idea. I want to kind of bounce off of that." The community aspect is absolutely huge. We do group calls once a week, but we also have a group forum. And that's where some of the other moms really like to utilize the conversation there, because some of you cannot make a Zoom call in your week, especially with busy schedules. And I totally get that. So we have a community forum that's active every day where you can ask questions anytime. If it's 3 a.m. and you're pumping and you're feeding, or you have a question, you can pop it in there and our team of experts gets back to you the next morning. It is so nice. And then, like she mentioned, there was a curriculum that is really extensive that goes through everything you need to know about how to pump correctly, but really how to pump correctly for you, and to how to figure out what your experience looks like and what your milk supply can do, and what tools and triggers and techniques work best for you specifically. Efficiency is my love language. I know I've said that on YouTube videos before, but I have tried to make it the minimum of what you need to know to be successful. And we have had, I think we're at about 230 moms come through our program in the last 2.5 years, which is amazing. And all of them are just like Lhea. They are such wonderful people who are trying really hard to make their career work as well as feed their baby in a way that they want to. I hope you really heard Leah's advice in her saying it doesn't have to be all or nothing, right? You can give what you can give, and you can be really proud of it. I could just see in Leah's face how proud she was of herself. And honestly, I am so proud of her too. She has navigated a lot of different things, and I have loved working with her, and I get to keep working with her. And if she has a second baby, then I get to see her again, which is one of the reasons I love this style of coaching so, so much. As she mentioned, it's more than milk. There are a lot of mental and emotional aspects that come in to this transition in that first year postpartum. And it's hard for career-driven women who also want to give breast milk to their babies. And it's not all about the milk, right? We are, pumping experts, but we are also coaches in this program. And it surprises me how often we end up talking with moms, not only about the logistics of pumping and the aspects that they need, we can kind of improve and tweak to get a little bit more milk here and there, but about the mental part of this experience. It's hard. And it's so interesting to me as I continue to work with mothers and learn and explore how much your mental state and where you're at in your life and in your job and in everything that you've got going on, how much that affects pumping. It affects how your output, right? Stress and anxiety play an effect there. We have a YouTube video on the channel talking about milk supply anxiety, I think is what it's called, talking about how that affects that there, how being out of balance and stressed and anxious and unsure about everything can also affect how easily you can pump or how quickly you can pump. We often see mothers inside of our program have, for one, more output once you figure out things and are doing it more correctly, but they're often able to pump faster as well and more efficiently. And that's what I love to see, because as a busy working mom, you just do not have time to waste any of your effort on doing things inefficiently. And so that's something that we really focus on too is, okay, so if you only have this much time to put into pumping, how do we maximize what we're doing there? And again, it's different for everyone, which is why I really like this coaching model. As Lhea mentioned, also, almost all of our clients have an IBCLC that they're working with for the latching help and the weight checks and the hands-on things. Me and my team are IBCLC, so we are lactation consultants, but this is not your typical lactation consultant. We really are pumping coaches for working moms who are pumping. And our role extends beyond what an IBCLC does, I suppose, if that makes sense. It's important that we know the ins and outs of making milk and things like that, but we really are pumping experts and life coaches here in this program, which is why it's so unique and so needed for so many of these working moms. So I loved chatting with Lhea. I hope you enjoyed her too. I wish I could have kept her for so much longer because she is smart and she has a lot of wonderful things to say. And I am so proud of her. I checked in with her when her baby had his birthday. And I said, "Oh, congratulations, it's your birthday," and she popped on with a weaning plan and we chatted through that. And now here we are 3 or 4 weeks later and she's, it's adjusting, but that's life. Life is inconsistent and it adjusts. And I love being a part of every step of it with my clients. I absolutely love them. If you find yourself needing some help, you can apply to join our program at newlittlelife.com/apply. We do application only, and you'll get on a call with one of our enrollment coaches who will chat with you and learn more about you and where you're struggling and see if you can help. We don't invite everybody into our program. It's not something you can just go sign up for because, first of all, we want to make sure that we can help you, right? So we'll ask you questions about you. We want to make sure that we know where you're at and what you need. And if we can't help you, we'll tell you that and we'll give you some other resources. But if we can help you, we will invite you in and tell you more and get you started. And I love that. That really helps us keep our community so specific. And it's what makes these calls, like Lhea mentioned, amazing. And the group forum where people are asking questions, everyone is doing the same thing. So if you are a career-driven mom who also is passionate about giving breast milk to your child, whatever way that looks, we'd love to talk with you. If you have a challenging job where you're not sure if you're going to make this, let's figure it out. Whether you have a low supply, oversupply, whether you're making just enough and really are just needing that mental support of a community of other working moms who are doing this surrounding you, that's what we do. And we'd love to chat with you. Again, there's a link here on the screen, or if you're listening, it's newlittlelife.com/apply. If you have any questions, just reach out. We want to help you. So if that's not us, we'll let you know. But otherwise, we will do what we can to get you started and get you some help. And I don't know, there's a lot of wisdom that comes from being with other moms who have been there. summer break when I'm recording this right now. My kids are home. I'm a working mom myself. I know the struggles. I have 3 little kids. I've done this many times, and I would love to help walk you through it. Currently, everyone on my team is also a working mom. Like we are so passionate about helping you. And if you need the help, let us know. But huge thanks again to Lhea for the conversation today. I hope you may even have to go re-listen to that one, because she had so many gold nuggets for you of wisdom. And even, I know she's at the end of her first journey here, but there's a lot of wisdom that comes from doing. And so I'm so glad she was able to share that with us. All right. If you need any help, let us know. But good luck and happy pumping.